Welcome to the Howie Silbiger Show on the True Talk Radio Network. Get in on the conversation. Call 1-877-669-1292.
And good evening, I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. I am glad to be here. It has been a while since I've been on, and I would share with you why I have been on in a while, but it's really not your business. So I'm not going to share with you why I haven't been on. I'm just going to say there's a good reason for me not to have been on, and I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad to be on right now. And we should be on a little more, seriously, a little more often these days than we have been before. But it's good to be back, and I'm happy I'm here, and I'm happy that you're here listening to the show, watching the show, and being part of the show. It is a pleasure to be back, and as I have said for the last 30 years, or just about, it's an honor for me to be on every single night. It's an honor for me to be on talking to you. It's an honor for me to know that you spend some of your time listening to what I have to say. If you want to call in, numbers are 1-877-669-1292. The lines are open, and you could call in. If you are listening or watching this live, you could feel free to call in. 1-877-669-1292. A Nazi group gathered outside a synagogue in Georgia and brandished swastikas during the Shabbos services on Saturday. Shocking pictures and videos showed around a dozen people waving at the hate symbol outside the Chabad of Cobb synagogue in East Cobb, the nonprofit Stop Anti-Semitism reported. Joe Menandio II, the leader of the so-called Goyim Defense League, was arrested for disorderly conduct and public disturbances the day before at a synagogue in Macon, Georgia, the local Georgian television station WMAZ reported. Now, members of the Chabad of Cobb told WMAZ that the neo-Nazis were out there for a few hours. Videos posted online showed the group holding swastika flags and signs that read, "Every single aspect of abortion is Jewish," as local residents could be heard shouting at them, "Go home." Officers from the Cobb Police Department responded to the scene but did not dispel the rally. Freedom of speech and even hate speech is generally protected by the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Although true threats and harassment are not, officers stood between the two groups, didn't let them get near each other, but didn't arrest anybody. Now, law enforcement has not issued any public statements addressing the incident on Saturday, but Chabad of Cobb's leaders said that the police department is working with them to ensure the safety of everybody at the synagogue. "This was the most frightening thing I've ever seen in my life," is the quote from Stuart Levy, who attends the Chabad of Cobb. "I am shocked, absolutely shocked, to see this here. When I see the amount of ignorance out there and some of the truths that they are promoting, it's just frightening, the level of inaccurate knowledge there is," he said. Jennifer Karen Derrick, who does not attend the synagogue but lives in East Cobb, said she doesn't believe any of the Nazis were local residents. Here's the quote. She said, "It's sad to see, although I'm fairly certain that their people aren't from our local community," Ms. Karen Derrick told the Independent newspaper who covered the event. "I just don't understand the hate and never will," she said. Ms. Karen Derrick said that East Cobb residents had planned a peaceful gathering for Monday at 5 p.m. in support of the Jewish community. Individuals who wished to attend the protests were encouraged to bring signs featuring messages of love and respect, Ms. Cohen Derrick said. Chabad of Cobb issued a statement decrying the Nazi rally and thanked members of the community for stepping up against hate. The synagogue noted that East Cobb had been a wonderful home to a flourishing Jewish community for many years, and the anti-Semitic protest did not represent the community's sentiment. "We have been in communication with Cobb's County officials, who have identified these individuals as part of a small group that travel around the country in order to spread their hateful message," the statement said. "Ultimately, we must remember that the most potent response to darkness is to increase in light. Let this unfortunate incident to increase in the acts of goodness and kindness, Jewish pride, and greater Jewish engagement." The Anti-Defamation League described the Goyim Defense League as a small network of virtually anti-Semitic provocateurs led by John Menandio II with overachieving goals. to cast aspirations on Jews and spread anti-Semitic myths and conspiracy theories. So it's interesting that this group, Goyim, the Goyim Defense League, kind of makes me laugh because, of course, it's a take on the Jewish Defense League. And it's just funny that they were called the Goyim Defense League. I just find the whole thing kind of funny. But the Goyim Defense League, which apparently just consists of 6 people, I'm looking at the video online now. I would show it to you, but unfortunately, with YouTube and these copyright laws that they have, I can't show you these kind of videos. But I'm watching it now, and you can find it on. It's all over the place. You can find it, and there seems to be only 6 people standing in front of the synagogue. They're carrying Nazi flags, 2 Nazi flags, and one of them's carrying a sign. I can't make out what it says on the sign, but that's it. There's 6 people standing in front of a synagogue with Nazi flags. Now, one has to think, just for a second. One of the quotes that I read you was from one of the members of the synagogue, one of the people in the synagogue. He says it's the scariest thing he's ever seen in his life. 6 people standing with a Nazi flag is the scariest thing the man's ever seen in his life. Well, I think at that point, if that's actually the case, and this is the scariest thing the man's ever seen in his life, I think at this point the man should count his blessings. These people did not call for violence on the Jewish community. They did not call for blowing up the synagogue or for hurting anybody there. They made some opaque reference to abortion being a Jewish theory, which it's not. It's really mind-boggling that we have not trained our Jewish community to deal with threats like this. We have not trained our Jewish community to deal with these kind of incidents. We've been oppressed for hundreds and thousands of years. Well, maybe not hundreds of thousands, at least 6,000 years. We've been oppressed, and it feels like 100,000 years. We've been oppressed so long. And yet we stand back and we don't train the next generation to understand that Jews are hated and that people are going to hold up signs and hold up flags that are going to be insulting and degrading to the Jewish people, and this is just a fact of life. And we just have to accept it as Jews, but we don't have to tolerate it. Now, we can accept the fact that there are people who don't hate us. I accept the fact that there's not a lot of people, that there's a lot of people who may not like me. I can accept that fact. But I don't have to accept the fact if somebody who doesn't like me wants to come over and punch me, I don't have to accept that fact. In fact, I don't have to accept it at all. So if I know that this person wants to come over and punch me, I could go over and punch them first. It's called self-defense, right? I could do that. And the Jewish community hasn't learned this lesson yet. And this is the problem I have with the organized Jewish community. They always say, so hold back. We'll negotiate with words. We don't have to get violent. We don't have to take everything on head to head. You don't have to tell the community when there's a synagogue daubing on the synagogue, when swastikas are drawn on the synagogue. It's none of the community's business, and we don't want copycats. So just kind of keep your mouth shut, Howie. And this is what I hear all the time. But at the same time, I know perfectly well that if 6 people showed up in front of a synagogue and the entire congregation stopped what they were doing inside the synagogue and walked out and confronted the 6 people, and were ready to take on these 6 people ideologically and physically if necessary, that these 6 people would have taken off. They wouldn't have stood in front of the synagogue for multiple hours, and it wouldn't have been the scariest thing that this man has ever seen in his life. I know that if we had a trained group of Jews who, in every synagogue, who were ready to go out and defend the synagogue, defend Judaism, defend the Jews in the synagogue, then displays like this would not happen at all, ever. But of course, it's very controversial for me to suggest this. And every time I've made this kind of suggestion on the radio, every time I've said this kind of thing, I've always gotten calls from Federation leaders and from pulpit rabbis in horror, saying, Howie, how could you say something like that? How could you provoke? How could you advocate for violence or for confrontation? What's wrong with you? And I always answer them the same thing. I turn it around and I say, what's wrong with you? When people are standing in front of a synagogue holding a Nazi flag, the message they are sending is that the genocide wasn't finished. That Hitler didn't finish the job and somebody has to step up to the plate and finish the job. That is the message they are sending. And that is the message we should be taking from them. And if we take that message from them, then we have to understand that there are people out there who won't only hold up a flag, but will come in and shoot people. We've seen it happen. It's happened in various synagogues where people have walked into the synagogue and shot people. And if we know that that could potentially happen, and this kind of hate could potentially turn into that, then why are we not training people in our community to defend the synagogues? Training people in our community to defend the schools? Training people in our community to defend Judaism and Jewish institutions? Why are we not doing that? Because we're too busy. We're way too busy hiring security guards and building moats and putting up walls and barriers and cement concrete barriers so that cars can't drive through. We're too busy doing that to worry about training our next generation, training the current generation of Jews to defend themselves. About a decade ago, maybe a little more, there was a rash of Jews being beaten up in the subway system in Montreal. And I remember clearly because we were covering it on the show almost every single day. Every single day we were hearing about Jews going into the subway and getting beaten up on the subways in Montreal. And I asked the question at the time. I said, why are we not training Jews to defend themselves? Why is there not self-defense in every single school right across North America? Why doesn't Federation offer free self-defense courses to anybody who wants to take them and encourage young people to come and take self-defense? Especially college-age students who are in danger every single day on college campuses. Why are they not taking self-defense courses supplied for free by the Jewish community? This is the question. It's the question. You collect billions of dollars a year across North America, billions of dollars a year in fundraising, and some of that money goes to great causes. Some of that money goes to helping poor people and building soup kitchens and building assisted living facilities for older people. Fine, I love what Federation does with a lot of the money, but why isn't some of the money being used to create a program that will train young people to defend the community, to defend themselves? Forget about defending the community. Fine, you want to hire professionals to go and defend the community? Go ahead. Go ahead. Spend hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, millions of dollars a year. Hire security guards for everywhere. That's fine with me. It's a good use of the money. The security guards are kind of useless, but it's a good use of the money. It makes people feel like you're doing something when you're not actually doing anything. Fine, I can live with that. But the college kid who's on campus and who gets attacked on campus day in and day out, not providing him or her with self-defense, not providing him or her with the tools to defend themselves both ideologically and physically on campus, failing to do that, you're failing your community. You're setting your community up for failure. You're setting your children up for failure. You're setting college kids up for failure. And then you're setting them up to be people who are sitting in the synagogue and 6 people are standing aside for a Nazi flag, and they say it's the scariest thing they've ever seen in their lives. It is extremely, extremely disturbing that we allow this to continue. Extremely disturbing. Years ago, I was on college campuses for years. I did multiple degrees. I've been in and out of college for years, in and out of university. A couple of years ago, I was at Concordia University. If you don't believe me, you could Google the story. I was at Concordia University, and 2 young Arabs, and I'm not a young guy anymore, but 2 young Arabs came up to me and said to me, "Take your yarmulke off, take your kippah off. This is an Arabic university. You can't walk around with that thing on your head in an Arabic university." And I looked at them, and I said to them, and I said, "You're going to have to take it off for me. There's no way I'm taking this off. So if you want it off, you have to take it off for me." And I said, "You have 1 shot to get off my head before I put you on the floor. You have 1 shot." And they looked at me, and they sized me up. I was substantially older than them. And they sized me up. They weren't sure. You see, when you're my age and you go into university, everyone assumes that you might be a professor. They don't know. They don't know if you're a professor or a student. And they weren't sure if I was faculty or not, so they took a step back and they kind of left me alone. But that's because I was sure that I could take them. I was sure that with the training I've received over the course of my life, I was able to stand up to them physically and ideologically. So if they want to have an ideological fight with me, more than happy to engage with them ideologically. If they want to engage with me physically, I was more than happy to engage with them physically. I was not physically intimidated by them. And that's because I took private training, and I've learned over the years how to defend myself. We are robbing our youth of that kind of certainty, of that kind of that level of comfort on a campus, on university campuses. And why are we doing this? I just don't understand why we are doing this. It's so mind-boggling to me that we are allowing our children to be beaten up. We're allowing our children to be harassed. We're allowing our children to be degraded, to be crushed. We're allowing this to happen. And there's nobody screaming and yelling and demanding that anything, that Federation change themselves. In fact, the people who insist that this happens, people like me who get up and say these things, we're called the radicals. I guarantee I'll get a call tonight or tomorrow. Somebody told me, Howie, what you said last night was so radical, it was so crazy. It was so crazy, I can't believe that you're saying these things, and you're saying these things publicly. And really, you shouldn't say these things publicly. You should close down your show and forget about it. These are the calls I get after I do shows like this. These are the calls I get after I make statements like this. And it should be the other way around. They should be calling me and saying, Howie, how can we set this up? Howie, what do you think is the appropriate way to set this up? Or you should just go and do it. Set it up. Make it work. Create it. So nobody else could say, this is the scariest moment of my life. 4 guys or 6 guys are standing outside my synagogue with a swastika. These are the scariest times of my life. Nobody should have to say that. Everybody should be confident enough that they could physically and emotionally protect themselves. This is really what should be happening, but it doesn't. And the only way this could change, the only way that we could make a difference and this could change, is if you insist on the change. It's easy for me to get on here and scream and yell and jump up and down. I didn't do much jumping today, but screaming and yelling, I didn't do that much of that either. But you understand what I'm saying. I could get on here, I could complain about this, I could tell you about this, I could make the argument. But without your help, without you demanding that Federation do something about this, without you demanding that Federation start training our young people in martial arts and in self-defense, without you saying, my donation is based on this, this is exactly what you need to be doing in order to get my donation. Because all Federation cares about is money. So if you hold back your money or you threaten them with your money, you guarantee that you could change the community for the better. But you got to be willing to do that. And unfortunately, not enough people are willing to do that. And that is the saddest part of this commentary. That is the saddest part of the story. That is, unfortunately, the saddest part of this community. I'm Howie Silbiger. This is the Howie Silbiger Show right here on the True Talk Radio Network. You can feel free to call in. Number to call is 1-877-669-1292. That's 1-877-669-1292. We've been lucky in Montreal. We've been very lucky that we haven't had a major incident like this in front of a synagogue or in front of a Jewish institution. Sure, we've had the anti-Israel protesters and we've had stuff like that. But we haven't had a group like the Goyish Defense Force, or the Goyim Defense Force. We haven't had them showing up and protesting in front of our places. But one day it will happen. It's bound to happen. It's destined to happen. And when it does, I hope that the Montreal Jewish community doesn't come out and make a statement like, this is the scariest time of my life. But gets up and makes a statement like, we are going to fight back. We are not going to allow this in our community. This is unacceptable. This is unacceptable behavior. We are condemning this right and left. We're not saddened by it. We're not scared by it. we're condemning it, and we are warning the Jew haters that if you come to our community again and you bother us again, we will take care of you. This is the statement that we should be making. This is the statement that the Jewish community should be making, that we will deal with you. You come bother us, we will deal with you. Until we are willing to make that statement, until we are willing to show that we are strong Jews and not weak, pathetic, dead Jews, then we'll always have this problem of anti-Jewites believing they could come and they could do whatever they want to us. This will always be the case. We have to stand up and say we are strong, we are powerful, and we are not going to take it, and we are not going to accept it. And if you want to come and bother us, well, you got something coming to you. We got to do this. And it's up to you. It's in your hands. I'm Howie Silbiger. It's the Howie Silbiger Show. Thanks for joining me. I will see you again tomorrow.